Welcome to Creations of Our World, the podcast where we delve into the fascinating stories behind the things we love. I'm your host, Kelly, and today we are talking about something truly divine, a food that has captivated humanity for centuries: chocolate. And to guide us through this delicious world, we have a master of the craft with us. Johnny is an artisan chocolatier with over 20 years of experience turning the humble cacao bean into an edible work of art. Johnny, welcome to the show.
Kelly, it's an absolute pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me. I can talk about chocolate all day, so this is the perfect place for me.
I think our listeners will be very happy to hear that. So let's start at the very beginning. Most of us just see chocolate as a bar in a shiny wrapper. Where does it actually come from?
It all starts with a tree, the Theobroma cacao tree, which literally translates to food of the gods. And honestly, that's a pretty accurate description. This tree grows these large, football-shaped pods directly on its trunk and branches.
Food of the gods. I love that. So inside these pods, that's where the magic is?
Exactly. You crack one open and inside you'll find about 30 to 50 seeds, which we call cacao beans, all covered in this sweet, white, fleshy pulp. And those little beans are the starting point for everything we know as chocolate.
That's amazing. I'm picturing something that looks nothing like a chocolate bar. And these trees, they don't just grow anywhere, right?
Not at all. They are quite particular. They thrive in what's called the cacao belt, a narrow band around the equator about 20 degrees north and south. Think of places like West Africa. Countries like Ivory Coast and Ghana are huge producers. And also Latin America, where it all originated. Countries like Ecuador, Peru, and Venezuela are famous for their fine flavor cacao.
You mentioned fine flavor cacao. Is there a place that's known for having the best in the world?
That's a topic of great debate. Much like with wine grapes, the soil and climate, the terroir, impart unique flavors. Many connoisseurs would point to certain varieties from Ecuador, like the Arriba Nacional or the Criollo beans from Venezuela. They have these beautiful, complex floral and fruity notes that you just don't get in bulk beans.
Fascinating. So let's get into the main event. You've harvested these pods. Take us through the journey. How do you transform those beans into a chocolate bar?
All right, here we go. The first step right after harvesting is fermentation. This is absolutely critical. The beans, along with that white pulp, are scooped out of the pods and placed in large wooden boxes or piled on the ground and covered with banana leaves.
Fermentation? I would never have guessed that. Why is that so important?
It's where the flavor begins. The sugars in the pulp ferment, creating heat and acids. This process does two things. It stops the bean from germinating, and more importantly, it starts developing the chemical precursors to that rich, complex chocolate flavor. Without fermentation, chocolate would just taste bitter and flat. It's a process that can last up to a week.
Wow. Okay, so after a week of fermenting, what happens next?
Next is drying. The fermented beans are spread out on large mats or tables under the sun. They need to be turned regularly to dry evenly. This brings the moisture content way down, which preserves them for their journey to chocolatiers like me. This can take another week or so.
So much time and care has already gone in, and we're not even close to chocolate yet.
Not even close. Once I receive the dried beans, my work begins, and the first thing I do is roast them. This is another crucial flavor development stage, very much like roasting coffee beans.
Right.
I can control the temperature and time to bring out specific notes in the beans. A lighter roast might preserve those delicate floral notes we talked about, while a darker roast will develop those deep, nutty, classic chocolatey flavors. The aroma in the workshop during roasting is just heavenly.
I can only imagine. So they're roasted. Now what?
After roasting, the beans have a thin, papery shell. We need to get rid of that. So we crack the beans and then separate the shell from the inner part, which is called the cacao nib. This process is called winnowing. The nibs are pure, broken up pieces of the cacao bean, and they are the essence of the chocolate.
Cacao nibs. I've seen those sold in health food stores.
Yes, exactly. They're intensely flavorful, but not sweet at all. Now, this is where we turn a solid into a liquid. The nibs are ground in a machine with stone rollers, sometimes for days. The friction and pressure generate heat, which melts the cocoa butter within the nibs.
So it just melts on its own.
That's right. Cacao nibs are about 50% fat, which is the cocoa butter. The grinding process transforms the gritty nibs into a thick, dark liquid paste called chocolate liquor. And just to be clear, there's no alcohol in it, it's just the industry term.
Good clarification. So now we have this chocolate liquor. Is that when you add sugar and other ingredients?
Precisely. For dark chocolate, we'll add sugar and maybe a bit of extra cocoa butter. For milk chocolate, we'll add sugar, milk powder, and cocoa butter. This mixture is then further refined in a process called conching.
Conching? What does that do?
Conching is a long process of mixing and aerating the liquid chocolate. It continues to smooth out the texture, making it silky on the tongue, and it helps to drive off any remaining harsh acidic flavors, mellowing it out into the chocolate we know and love. This can take anywhere from a few hours to a few days. The longer the conch, the smoother the chocolate.
The level of detail is just incredible. Okay, so we have this smooth liquid chocolate. Are we ready to make a bar?
Almost. There is one final and incredibly important and rather scientific step: tempering. This is what separates amateur chocolate from professional chocolate.
Okay, demystify tempering for us.
In simple terms, cocoa butter can form several different types of crystals when it solidifies. Most of them are unstable. They'll give you chocolate that's dull, crumbly, and melts in your hand instantly. Tempering is a precise process of heating and cooling the chocolate to encourage just one type of stable crystal.
And that stable crystal is the secret.
It's the secret to everything. When chocolate is properly tempered, it will be glossy, firm, and have that satisfying snap when you break a piece. It will also melt smoothly in your mouth, not in your fingers.
The snap, I know exactly what you're talking about. So once it's tempered, you pour it into molds?
That's the final step. We pour the liquid, tempered chocolate into molds, let them cool and solidify, and then, finally, you have a chocolate bar, ready to be wrapped and enjoyed.
That is an epic journey. It gives me a whole new appreciation for what goes into a single square of good chocolate. After all these years, what part of this process still amazes you?
For me, it's the transformation during roasting. One of the most amazing experiences of my life was visiting a cacao farm in Ecuador. I tasted the raw bean, which is nothing like chocolate. It's bitter, astringent. But then, back in my workshop, when I roast those very beans and the air fills with that unmistakable aroma, it's pure alchemy. It never gets old.
That sounds truly magical. It's so clear this is more than just a job for you, it's a passion. We see chocolate everywhere around the globe. How differently do people enjoy it?
Oh, the diversity is wonderful. In Europe, especially Belgium and Switzerland, there's a deep tradition of pralines and truffles, with a focus on smooth, creamy textures. In America, you have the classic candy bars with nuts, caramel, and nougat. And then you go to Mexico, where it has ancient roots, and you find it in savory dishes like mole, or as a hot spiced drink with cinnamon and chili.
That's fascinating. It really is a global food. You know, we often hear conflicting things about chocolate. On one hand, it's a candy, a treat. On the other, we hear it might have health benefits. What's the real story from an expert's point of view?
That's a great and very important question. The story is indeed complex, but the science is becoming clearer. The key lies in the type of chocolate. When we talk about health benefits, we are almost exclusively talking about dark chocolate with a high percentage of cacao, say 70% or higher. The reason is that cacao is packed with compounds called flavonols, which are powerful antioxidants. These flavonols have been shown to improve blood flow, reduce blood pressure, and even help protect your skin from sun damage.
So the higher the percentage, the better? Does that mean a 90% bar is significantly better than a 70% bar?
In terms of flavonol content, yes, absolutely. But there's a trade-off with flavor. As the cacao percentage goes up, the sugar content goes down, and the chocolate becomes more bitter and intense. A 90 or even 100% bar can be an acquired taste. For most people, a good 70 to 85% dark chocolate is the sweet spot, where you get significant benefits and it's still incredibly delicious. Milk chocolate, on the other hand, has much more sugar and milk solids, which dilutes the cacao content and negates many of the benefits.
That's really impressive. So for our listeners who want to indulge a little more health consciously, what should they look for on the label? It can be a bit confusing.
Definitely. The first thing is the cacao percentage. Look for 70% or higher. Second, check the ingredient list. It should be very short. Ideally, you want to see cacao beans or chocolate liquor, sugar, and maybe cocoa butter and a touch of vanilla. If you see a long list of ingredients with things like vegetable oils, artificial flavors, or a high amount of emulsifiers, it's generally a sign of a lower quality bar.
That's great practical advice. It's wonderful that chocolate can be both a treat and have these benefits. But there's another side to the story, isn't there? The story of the people who grow the cacao. Could you talk a bit about the importance of ethical sourcing and sustainability in the chocolate world?
I'm so glad you asked, Kelly. This is a topic I'm incredibly passionate about, and it's arguably the most important challenge facing the chocolate industry today. The truth is, many cacao farmers, particularly in West Africa where the majority of bulk cacao is grown, live in extreme poverty. Historically, the supply chain has been structured in a way that the farmers at the very bottom receive a tiny fraction of the price of the final chocolate bar.
That's where categories like fair trade come in, right? What does that label actually guarantee when we see it on a package?
Essentially, they ensure that the farmers receive a fair, stable price for their beans, a price that's set above the often volatile commodity market. It also includes an additional premium that the farming cooperative can invest in their community for things like building schools, clean water wells, or improving their farming techniques. Certifications like Rainforest Alliance also focus heavily on environmental sustainability, protecting the forests and promoting biodiversity on the farms.
So these labels are a good starting point for consumers who want to make a difference.
They are, but there is also a growing movement called bean to bar or direct trade. This is where smaller chocolate makers, like myself, build direct relationships with the farmers or farming cooperatives. We bypass the large commodity chain, which allows us to pay a much higher premium directly to the farmers for high-quality, fine-flavor beans. It creates a partnership that's beneficial for everyone. The farmer is rewarded for their hard work and sustainable practices, and we get incredible cacao that makes for a far superior chocolate. It's about transparency and connection.
Johnny, this has been an incredibly enlightening conversation. Thank you so much for breaking down this amazing process for us.
The pleasure was all mine, Kelly. My only advice to your listeners is to find a good quality chocolate, break off a piece, and really take a moment to taste it. Think about the journey it took to get to you. It makes it all the more satisfying.